You know, I know people say you shouldn't glamorize busy, but we've been busy. And I mean, we've been busy for 20 years. We hit a brick wall. Even in the beginning part of 2020, January and February, we were busy. It was gonna be a big year, probably our biggest yet. And then out of nowhere, it just stopped.
My shows started getting canceled day by day by day. Everything was gone. My tour was canceled indefinitely. All the festivals I was booked, they were postponed and have since been canceled until next year.
I would say everyone was a little bit nervous because nobody knew where we were headed or, what was going to happen as far as our industry is concerned.
Protocols that have been implemented by this production arm, masks at all times in the building.
2020 comes around, January starts fine, February starts slowing down, and then COVID hits and everything comes screeching to a halt. We had to rethink some things. Is this gonna stop? Is this gonna, close our business down? Is this going to take our salaries away? How's it gonna affect our families?
We are requesting that all staff on site complete a COVID-19 test before you leave this evening. Even if you've been fully vaccinated, all staff are required to be tested and obtain a health check wristband.
Everything was steady, we were comfortable, you felt like you had a real future in what you were doing and you were building in a good way. It felt like there wasn't really anything big that could go wrong with the job at that point.
Nobody's having auditions, so don't email me, it's not you, it's, nobody's doing auditions this week. And then it just stopped.
That's how this year was going. And it looked like I was gonna go to Australia, and it looked like I was gonna go to Germany. And then the third week of March, I got an invite to an event in New York, and it was canceled. And that was the first thing that really fell apart, and then it was just we're not doing that anymore. No more in person, movies aren't coming out. We've had to pivot in a lot of ways to find new ways to create content, because the bread and butter isn't there anymore.
It kind of hit our industry real hard and real fast. Within that 12-hour span, just stopped.
Check. Check 1, 2, check.
So 2020 was crazy for film, entertainment, live events. All the workers in these industries lost their jobs at the same time.
Yeah, and there was really no end in sight. I mean, I personally didn't work for about 6 months, and since I'm self-employed, trying to get on unemployment was just a complete nightmare.
And then when work did come back in the fall of 2020, everything had changed. I mean, not just in terms of job availability, but the way we operate doing our jobs on set was completely different. It wasn't anything like it was before.
It was almost unrecognizable. And the tough part is a lot of people in these industries are very passionate by nature. Like, this line of work defines them. So not only did we all lose our income, we lost our livelihood.
I think the number one thing to keep in mind when you think about the difference in a job and a career in production work, it really comes down to passion. Everybody needs to make money to live and to pay rent, but money almost becomes secondary to us with what we do. My name is Nick Duggar. I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am a technical producer for live, multi-camera television and streaming events. To define our industry, I would call it production. Whether it's trade shows, festivals, we produce events. For us specifically, there's really 3 main areas we focus on. We work in entertainment. That means award shows, concerts, festivals. We work in sports, college sports, professional sports. We work in the corporate world, doing corporate meetings and corporate addresses and corporate streaming. I think I finally identified not long ago what it is about our industry that's special, and it's a connection. And whether you are making somebody laugh or making somebody cry, or if you work in music, if you're making a fan bob their head or dance or sing along, you're creating a connection with the audience. Ours borderlines on emotional, and even if you're doing something, boring like a corporate convention where a CEO is on stage talking about quarterly returns, there's still a connection there. And I think what we have found in this modern age is that connection can be achieved over a 4-inch screen you hold in your hand.
My name's Cassidy Pope, and I am a singer-songwriter. I used to be in a band called Hey Monday. We got signed when I was 17, and we went on the road when I was 18. We were about 4 years into the band when I decided to leave. We kind of hit a ceiling, and it just, we had some like label changes, and our A&R left and the president switched, so it just wasn't quite working out anymore. So I left the band. I moved to LA. I was 21 at that point. I started to pursue a solo career. I was recording new stuff. I put out an EP. Since then, it's just been the craziest ride, you know, going from a band to being a solo artist just changed my life. I don't think I've ever gotten as big of a rush or an adrenaline high as I have with performing live on stage with an audience. And it really wasn't until a couple of months into the lockdown where I started to feel that void, and I started to kind of feel like, where am I gonna find that? Because that's a very life-giving experience for me. I started doing the, you know, virtual live shows, which are fun, but to finish a song and not have applause is a weird concept. Even just, I'm a joker, I like to say stupid things, and I usually get a few laughs from the crowd, but to say those silly things and not have laughs is like, okay, is this funny? I don't know. So it was an adjustment, and it still is. I miss touring. I miss connecting with fans face to face. I miss traveling. I love traveling. And you know, from the start of the pandemic, I was thinking that this was a temporary thing and that it wasn't gonna last that long. And I remember the moment where someone did ask me, you know, do you miss playing live shows? And it took me a second to really think about that question, because the quick answer is yes, but why? And it's that rush, it's that thing you get that you can't get anywhere else. So it's definitely been a void in my life this year.
My name is Brandon Davis. I am a host and producer for a multimedia company called comicbook.com. Comicbook.com is an entertainment news website. We deliver geek-based movie, TV, comic book news. My role there is to write articles, to produce videos, to host videos, write videos, sometimes edit videos. I often travel out to different press events, whether it's a movie junket, a movie premiere, a Comic-Con, anything of the sort, to talk to the filmmakers, talk to the writers, talk to creators, to kind of bring the news, to bring perspective and make it fun for everybody. Prior to the pandemic, I felt really fortunate to have landed the job that I did within comicbook.com. When I started there, they were an independent company, and we've become one of the biggest entertainment news outlets in the country. I mean, with the number of clicks on the site is more than 25 million a month. And last year, I think we were at about 22. So before everything kind of changed, we were still growing, but we were one of the biggest news outlets in the world, definitely in the country. And for me, that meant going out. For the most part, I would be traveling everywhere. In 2019, I went to Mexico, London, all over the United States. I mean, New Mexico, Austin, Texas, California, LA is a very common spot, Atlanta, Hawaii. It's just, I was spoiled by how many places, New Zealand, some of the most beautiful places in the world. And it was all just going better than according to plan. It was a pretty big shock at first to be home, but it was like the shock set in kind of slowly, because we didn't know that this was going to be such a long deal of being home. So once it like after that first month of being at home and not doing interviews and doing the things that kind of made me feel cool, it made me feel validated through my work, it started to really wear on me in like May and June. Like I started to really feel it. And when Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con was canceled, that was a tough one. And when these Marvel movies and these DC movies and these franchise movies that I usually get to go out and celebrate and talk about just kept getting delayed, it started to wear me down. Like I just wanted to get out of the house, man. And I'm a very active person, just outside of work. I like going to the gym. I like going over to hang with my mom, you know, to just hang with friends, go for a beer. And all of that was gone really quickly. And it was like, I just kept saying, you know, it just felt like you have to say, I'm really happy to still be working. You know, it's, I just feel fortunate to still have my job. And that is true. But after a while, it was just like, God, that's all I have. All I have is my job right now.
So the difference in losing a job and losing a career, I feel like it hurts a little bit more. We went to college for this. We spent so much money for this. I'm still paying for it with my loans. My name is Erica Springer, and I'm a video technician. Primarily when I'm on my tours, I am a camera operator and I will set up projection for IMAG. And that means that I will set up the screen so the audience can see the show as it's happening, blown up, so that way it's not so itty bitty. When I'm on festivals or I'm doing corporate gigs, I can jump anywhere from being a video director, video engineer, LED technician, I'll fix the LED walls, or I'll just float around, run some graphics, do whatever somebody needs me to do. This is the only thing that I've known and that I've loved. Everything else just never felt right. I've done the regular work, I've done the desk jobs, I've done the customer service, I've done, just general retail, anything. I've done food service. It's just, I haven't found anything else I like. I like the idea of being creative. I like the idea of going out and making other people happy with the work that I do. And so not only did I lose my income when all this COVID hit, I lost, the things that made me happy. And I know it's been rough for the people that lost just their jobs. Like, that's unfortunate for everyone, but they still have a chance to find another job, another career, something that makes them happy, and ours is just gone. It's not coming back anytime soon.
My name is Tiffany Murray, and I'm a union camera assistant and a non-union DP writer and director. I work on a lot of commercial and music video shoots as an AC in Los Angeles, and also work in the indie world a lot, working on like mid-level indie movies. And then I day play on things like Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, and have just started working on a full run of a union TV show for TBS. I had a lot going for me. 2020 is like the year. It was gonna be big. And then the pandemic hit and everything just kind of paused. And no one really knew like how long that would last. It was like, yeah, we'll like stay at home for 2 weeks and hang out, and then we'll be back at work and everything will be back to normal. So I had been so busy leading up to the lockdown that I was kind of like grateful for just like a slight, short break. And then it just didn't stop. And I was like, okay, ready to get back to work now. What's happening? And then it got really scary when it was like, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And more things canceled. My feature that I was supposed to shoot canceled. And there was no light at the end of the tunnel.
I'm Mike Taylor. I'm Vice President of CTS ABL. We're located south of Nashville, down in Franklin, Tennessee. I handle the live sales of our production department. For the most part, we also service the conference market, also handling festivals, touring work, large-scale one-offs. I was in New York when it happened. I was up there with my wife at a trade show for a business that she owns. I remember the world was shutting down. That day I flew home, we went into hibernation. We all went away. I had 15 to 20 tours come home. And I don't know if I'm like most companies in the area, but we don't have room for 15 tours to come home at once. Pre-pandemic, we had 44 people. We were heading towards 50 within months. By the time we hit August, we were 28 people. It's never easy letting someone go, whether they're just not talented enough, they're just gruff around the edges or whatever. It's really hard to let people go, but to let people go in a pandemic, it's mind-boggling, it's devastating, it's gut-wrenching because you're letting them go into a market that doesn't exist. And everybody thought, this is gonna be a couple weeks, so you're trying to decide, are we gonna keep this together? Are we gonna put it all back on the shelves? Are we gonna keep people paid through this time? Like, what are we gonna do? It was impossible to think that it would stop and it would stay stopped for as long as it stayed.
So right before COVID hit, things were looking good. I had actually just produced 2 music videos. Life was looking bright and beautiful. Everything was moving the way it was supposed to. It was a week in March where everything fell apart, the same week for everyone pretty much. I was on a gig in downtown Nashville. We just watched one thing after the other get canceled. We were both getting emails. The people I was with, the crew I was with who had plans for the rest of like the year let us know that that wasn't happening. And that money disappeared. We couldn't afford the daycare. And so while my wife was able to work from home during all that, I became the stay-at-home dad, which was awesome, but it was not the plan at the time. Now it's she's back in the office, and with work still being so unclear and unsteady, it just makes more financial sense for us to keep her home and keep her safe and not spend that cash when we don't have it.
My name's Tony Reyes. I'm a Steadicam owner-operator based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Steadicam's kind of a niche thing. It's a specialized camera position. I think I've heard there's only like 4,000 in the world, you know. I would say less than that are owner-operators, you know, and that do it regularly. It's a camera stabilization tool, really. It kind of makes it look like the camera's floating. That's what I tell people. So being a freelancer, it's hard to explain to people, but if we do not work, we literally don't get paid. It's almost like there is job security because we can't really get fired, but there's no job security because we're always unemployed in a sense. We're employed when we get that phone call and we go and work for that 1 day or 2 day or 3 day job, sometimes a week, you know, depending on what type of market you're in. But if we're not on set working, we're not earning an income. It's that simple. I don't know what it is about this job. Maybe I do. I mean, I could probably talk about this forever. But being a Steadicam operator is who I am. It has defined me now. So if that's taken away from me, honestly, it's kind of a nightmare to think about if I got injured or whatever. But to take me out of that, it sort of kills a part of me. We're not the type of people that are posting memes, you know, talking about it being Monday or thank God it's Friday. We don't care about that. We love our job and we want to be there. We're very passionate about what we do.
My name's Tori Livia. I live in Thousand Oaks, California. I'm a IATSE Steadicam operator, and I also operate other cameras for award shows and TV specials. But I also am a DGA director, so I direct. Well, 2019 was incredible. I was just actually going through some of the shows that I did, and it was basically nonstop. Obviously, we start off every single year with the Golden Globes. You know, that kind of starts award season. We started off the year like that, then it went into the Super Bowl, then I did the Oscars, which was a big deal in 2019 because it was a big part of the Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper performance. The year got off the same way that 2019 did. It was nonstop. We just did a big Super Bowl halftime show. Hamish Hamilton directs it. I was down there 2 weeks early rehearsing with Shakira. It was a great Super Bowl halftime show. We were really proud of it. And then we rolled into other award shows, like again, the Oscars. And then the last show that I actually worked on was a Disney Channel special that I directed. It was a dance special. We finished on the Monday, and it seemed like the next day everything was getting shut down. My schedule was filled all the way literally to August, and little by little shows were calling. Some were canceling, which always hurts, and some were just postponing. You know, they were just kicking the can down the road. We're not going to do it, Tori, in April. You know, let's put it on your calendar for September 14th to the 18th or whatever it is.
I'm David Bennett, and I'm a National Business Development Executive for PRG. Joyous part of my career, you know, where it was real nuts and bolts. It was film negative and gears and sprockets and really talented, hardworking people. I've always described film production, for example, I've always described as a floating factory. You know, because we drive to a location, we bring all our equipment with us, we bring all of the factory's employees with us. We stamp out our widget there on that location, load it back up, and the caravan moves on. The floating factory leaves. But during the time that movie company's producing in that location, they're dropping thousands of dollars in that community, you know, and it's a real vibrant economic engine at that particular time.
I toyed with video cameras, and I had multiple VCRs connected together in my bedroom for editing as a kid, but almost 30 years of actually doing this for a living, which is a long time. And to this day, my mom still can't tell you what I do for a living. She'll try to describe it and she has no idea. So I understand that a lot of people don't get what it is when you say you work in event production or live production. But I tell you when they do notice is when they turn on their TV, when they try to go to the movie theater, when they want to download some new music, when they want to attend a meeting or a presentation of some sort, and it's not there. All of a sudden, it occurs to them. The reason the stage is lit so well is because there's a team of lighting professionals. The reason festivals sound so good is because there's a team of audio professionals making that happen. The reason I get to see the movies I love and watch the television shows I love is because there are teams of gals and guys making this stuff happen, and they've seen the result of the stop down. They've seen that, we can't attend the CMA Music Fest this year. And I think they're starting to realize that that means the stage vendor, the lighting vendor, the audio vendor, the porta potty vendor, the credential vendor, the food tent vendor, all these people are being affected by it. I can't go to the festival, but all these people that make their living doing this, it's having a real effect on them.
I'm Butch Spiridon. I'm President and CEO of the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation. And we're in the event business. Ironically, we're in the film business. We're in the sales and marketing business, and Nashville is our client. First, we essentially own and produce July 4th. Let Freedom Sing is the event. We produce New Year's Eve, which is called Music City Midnight. We also do events, induction ceremonies around the Music City Walk of Fame. We recruit big events, most notably the NFL Draft in 2019, and today we are working on World Cup. You could kind of follow the wave around the globe, and so it was pretty evident we were next. The SEC basketball tournament was in town, and I probably never did more praying to at least get to Friday, get people in town. Let us have one more good weekend before the wheels came off. And unfortunately, we got two bad Wednesday night games, and Thursday morning they canceled the tournament. And then at that same time, that very weekend, we got a call from the mayor's office, and they were appointing a COVID task force, and could we help them with a communication strategy? They knew what to do health and science-wise. They did not know how to reach the masses on a regular basis. So we jumped in on a Sunday afternoon. How can we figure out what is going to happen in 3 months? What's going to happen in 6 months? How can we be better prepared? How can we communicate? And how can we salvage whatever is salvageable? So it was eye-opening, not enough time to really think and worry, and just knew we had to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
So as you know, we have to get COVID tested all the time to work these days. It's just how it is. And in 2020, when testing first started coming out and we were getting tested on show sites, if one or two people would test positive, a lot of times they would just cancel the job altogether, or they would postpone it. It's a little different now, and I unfortunately dealt with the front end of that. In 2021, I was getting ready to work an out-of-town job. I got sent an at-home COVID test to take, probably the 100th one I've done at that point. I take it, I send it off. A few days later, getting ready to leave for that job, and I get an email with my results, and it's positive. And I was completely caught off guard. I was really not expecting to see a positive result.
Yeah, we were supposed to work that job together. When you called me and told me you test positive an hour before we're supposed to hit the road, that changes up my whole thought process for how the day's gonna go. We get on site, we have to make up being a man down while also trying to scramble to find a replacement last minute who can test negative.
Yeah, and I mean, it sucks to lose the income, obviously, especially with everything we've been through with 2020. But I mean, I was really looking forward to working that job with people that I enjoy working with. We're all kind of a family on a lot of these jobs. So it sucked to see you guys leave without me, and I was just sitting at home feeling fine but not able to work it. In 2020, when work just went away, it really sucked. It was terrible to deal with. This felt so different because, like you said, the job just had to go on without me. I was just stuck. Unfortunately, this has happened to a lot of people that we work with, and some people dealt with a much worse case than I did.
My name is Brock Slagle, and I am one of the owners of Blue Sky Filmworks here in Brentwood, Tennessee. We've been around 18 years. We do anything from entertainment to industrial, training videos, covers a gamut of projects we've worked on in the last 18 years. I remember getting up Monday and having a great day on a particular Monday. You know, for a Monday it wasn't bad. And I'd done some work around the house. I wasn't working at the time, so I was at the house and my wife was working at the house and she's like, find something to do. So I was like, okay, I'll paint some walls. I started painting walls in the house, just some projects around the house. Went to bed that night, feeling really good. Woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't sleep. So that next day I went to paint some more and I was just tired. I had the horrible headache. It was just a nasty headache. I don't ever get headaches. And then a couple hours later I started getting chills. And my wife, she goes, you probably should go get a COVID test. I was like, COVID test? I was like, I don't know anybody who's got COVID. I didn't know anybody who had it. Hadn't heard of anybody on social media that had it that I knew. So I was like, no, I don't have COVID. Later on that day, I was like, yeah, I got to go get a test. I went and got a test, and doctor said, well, you don't have a open and shut case. He said about 8% of the people that we test are positive. I was like, hey, I'll take the 92%. A couple days later, I got the results that I was positive for COVID. Kind of rocked my world a little bit. I was like, I didn't expect to see that. I was like, oh, it'll be negative. You know, the kids will be at the house. We'll have a great weekend. And right then and there, things changed. Immediately, we had to start touching base with people. Hey, anybody I've been around the last week or two, this is what happened. The one thing it did teach me is that COVID does not discriminate. I work out, I eat healthy, I wore a mask, didn't go into grocery stores, and it found me. Still don't know how I got it. Nobody I knew had it. Business partners didn't have it, wife didn't have it, kids didn't have it, coworkers didn't have it. I got it, and it was horrible. For about 5 days, the chills were so bad that I'd be hot one second, like I had to have the air on like 65, and then I would be so cold within the next minute. Like I lost 5 pounds from shivers in 3 days, just from chills, 5 pounds of water weight and just muscle activity. And then I lost my sense of smell and taste for about 6 days. Every day I'd get up and try to smell something and I couldn't smell it. Tried black coffee for the first time. Still didn't like it, but I couldn't taste it. The smell started coming around after day 6, and then I was like, man, I beat this thing. I beat it. This thing did not get me. And then the breathing issues started. People are like, what does it feel like? And I'm like, well, it feels like you're out in the cold, like you went for a 5-mile jog, which I've done in 32 degrees, and how your lungs feel and they're burning. I was like, and so I'd be sitting there and I have to think about what I was going to say to somebody before I said it, because I was like, I got to, time this right. I got to time my words right. If this puts it in perspective, I went 12 years of school, never missed a day. 12 years, never got sick. And this thing knocked me on my butt. It hit me. I quarantined from Amy, my wife, for 18 days, stayed in my daughter's room. The kids didn't come over. We would Skype from different parts of the house. Didn't hug her for 18 days. Worst sickness I've ever had, probably some of the worst depression points in my life. It was bad. But coming out of that, I took a breathing treatment for a couple weeks and I've tested negative and I feel like I'm back to 100%. But it made me more of an advocate for letting people know, hey, this is real. It's not a ploy. I had it.
So when it first started, there was a massive shortage in personal protective equipment for people, and I just wanted to do something to be useful. My mom made this pattern. She did this cute little YouTube video to show people how to make their own masks. And, you know, I posted it and I just wanted to help and donate masks. I made a mask out of sunflowers. And I made 4 masks for my roommate because she had a flight the next day and I wanted her to have a mask that she could wear on her flight. And then I took a picture and did, you know, I'm creative, so I took a little thing and then I sent it to my friends, like, hey guys, I made this mask. And all my friends all said, oh, that's amazing, I'd buy one. And I had this little moment where I was like, like, should I sell it? Like, maybe people would want them. So I posted a photo on Etsy, and within 24 hours, I had 90 orders come in. Etsy makes this noise, the app on your phone, that every time you make a sale, it goes cha-ching, cha-ching. Like, kind of every time I hear that cha-ching noise, I'm a little bit excited because I'm like, oh, I don't think I'll have to go on unemployment. And then part of every time that I hear that noise, I'm a little bit terrified. So within 4 days of me making my very first post about the masks, I had 400 orders. So for 2 full months, while the mask shortage was really in play, I was working at the grocery store, and then I would wake up at like 5 in the morning, and I'd go to bed at around 2 o'clock at night. And that's all I would do is make masks.
We've always been a company that's been pretty entrepreneurial. It's really difficult to find new customers, but it's easy to offer them more services if they trust you. And through the years, we've been an audio company, we've added lighting, we've added video, and these are all directly tied to our customers and what they wanted from us. So, you know, 5 years ago, we would have just been an audio house, and had this happened during that time, we'd be probably shut down. We wouldn't have been able to open up a studio effectively, cost effectively. And so having those other pieces of our company, they've come through years of being innovative. We also have own mobile staging, which, you know, again, was super helpful this year. And so when it came time to do our pivot, we were well ready for it. We had a lot of services to offer people. We also had a company we were working with at the time that we were talking about with doing online education. And how can they do more of that automated so that they didn't have to go out and teach the class every time. So pandemic hits, they did their pivot, which was, wow, we should really focus on the entertainment industry and how people can still connect with their audiences. So when we opened up on May 1st, we were able to put together a studio. It was rough. We didn't know what we were doing. We were kind of throwing some road equipment at it and trying to figure it out, and it looked like it the first one we did. It looked like we were figuring out, and you know, there was a lot of grace shown to us by a lot of the people that were trying to help us along the way. We sort of got to a place where we saw it as a viable option, and we started to invest some of our own money back into it.
I think one of the biggest changes that we've seen is like how people consume content. With the oversaturation of content in certain platforms, others may not be, you know, saturating their content, like Netflix. You know, a lot of production just shut down with COVID, so they haven't been able to, you know, supply anything, you know, brand new other than the stuff that was already probably in post-production. I personally have found myself gravitating more to like YouTube and watching more YouTube channels, finding, you know, new content creators and stuff just for like my own personal enjoyment and like learning and stuff, because I ran out of documentaries and other stuff to watch on Netflix and Hulu, you know. A lot of it is what's pushed us in a way to how we consume content a little bit differently. And another way that musicians I've seen is obviously it's taken away the live events capability, so they can't do live shows. So what they pivoted to immediately was the live streams. I mean, I'm probably in the school of thought where I don't think the live streams are necessarily like a really good thing, because with that comes other downsides like audio quality. Unless you have a incredibly expensive rig to set up, like the audio quality is going to be coming through a microphone from your phone or laptop that's, you know, 10 feet away. So you don't get the same audio, you don't get the same experience, you don't get the same vibe, the energy that people give off when they're on stage and they're doing that performance right there in the moment that you can only be there to capture. Another thing that is I wouldn't say it's incited the change, but it's expedited the change of how people are going to start doing live events, so to speak. Like we've seen Travis Scott essentially do like a live show through Fortnite. a video game, which I think that is a cool thing because now you're adding like a unique perspective, a new angle to it. Granted, that probably comes with a lot of production costs because you essentially have to, create part of a video game around that one, style and stuff. But I definitely think that's kind of expedited the change in that direction.
2020 has been a time to pivot. Like that's how I would define this whole time, is that everyone has had to pivot and figure out, okay, what is next for me, or how can I make money, or how can I be okay? Like, what do I have to do to kind of change where I'm at? And I think creative people have been really good at that. I feel like we always have to do that anyway, but this kind of forced everybody to pivot big in some ways. Like it almost made them take the risks that maybe they didn't want to, or try something. A lot of people went online with their creativity. I've been a content creator for a while, so that wasn't really new for me, but for some people it was, and they started YouTube channels, or they started posting a lot of their content. And I think it's good to be able to pivot, because then you find new lanes of things that you didn't even know that you were good at. For me, like, I started to create art just to de-stress, and I would post it and people would like it, and I'm like, I was doing that because I just wanted to see something, like, be creative in front of me. I wanted to create something right then and there, and now it's not like a big stream of income, but it's definitely something that I would have never thought that I would be getting into at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, so I think the difference between having just like a job and this as a career is this becomes a lifestyle. I mean, I've missed Thanksgivings, I've missed birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, all that stuff, because when you do this, you're committing to it fully. It's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of long hours, it's a lot of time away from home and family and all that. And you kind of get used to it to a degree. You get your road family, which are the guys you go on 3, 4 months, 6 months, whatever. Like, those kind of become your road family, and they become really great friends, and you keep up with them forever. But the guys at home sometimes get left behind, and it takes a lot to come home off of a tour and recalibrate back to that and catch up on all their lives and catch up on all your family's lives. So yeah, there's some price to pay when you do that.
All the touring people I know, my colleagues that I worked with on the Bon Jovi tour last year, they are not working at all. For me, I stopped working at the end of March. I started to get back to work June. It's starting to kind of get back to normal. They're still sitting at home. I don't know what they're doing. Honestly, I'm scared for them, and I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't think they know what they're gonna do. All the tours canceled. You gotta think about it. You can't have thousands of people bumping up against each other, singing and screaming at the top of their lungs. They were the first ones to cancel, and they're gonna be the last ones to come back. So, yeah, I have a friend that, he's a touring guy that, everything stopped for him. And he said, people are like, oh, well, yeah, just pivot. He's like, to what? What do you take your touring skills, that skill set, what do you do with that, for one? Two, that's not who these people are. Verbatim, he was like, F that. Why? I'm not doing that. Like, pivot to what? There's nothing to pivot to.
I'm not sure if you're aware, there's different zones. So there's an A zone, there's a B zone, and there's a C zone. So A zone is with talent. That means you're coming within close proximity to talent, which would be, certain camera people, stage managers that are dealing with talent. B zone would be, lighting people, a lighting director, to be specific, someone else that's in the room that is staying in their zone. And C zone is someone, like a grip who's not coming anywhere near the set, who's doing a rigging before and after. They're really strict about the zones, extremely strict, and it is always on your credential, and you can't cross zones when you're on set. For example, on the Video Music Awards, I was the only camera that was on a stage with talent. So obviously I had to get tested every single day. Once you go on the stage, no matter what, you have to wear a mask. If you're getting on the stage, you have to wear a shield as well. And when you're doing Steadicam, it's difficult to wear a shield. People don't realize it. It's difficult to wear a mask because if you're moving fast and you're losing your breath, it's hard to get your breath when you have a mask on. Fortunately and unfortunately for me, I've gotten A-zone every single time.
So I'm working on a Warner Brothers show right now, and they have super strict protocols, even more so than CDC protocols or, IATSE in general. So we get tested 3 times a week, if not more, because of holidays and whatnot. So PCR test 3 times a week, goggles and shields, face masks, anytime that talent is on set, and then masks any other time, which has been definitely it's been an adjustment to try to figure out how to work with all of this stuff on your face. Distancing, lunches are no longer 8 people at a table. It's 1 person, 6 feet, another person, 6 feet. Yeah, it's a lot. You're not allowed to stand closer than 6 feet with any other person unless very necessary. So if I'm, adjusting something on camera, my operator has to step back 6 feet so I can do my job. And then he comes in and then I have to step away. So it's a lot. It's definitely something I've gotten used to, and it's just accepted. But God, there are times when it's 80 degrees outside and my mask is just so humid. All I want to do is just breathe fresh air. But I know that's what's keeping us safe. That's what's allowing us to keep working. And if I can keep working, I'll do whatever it takes,
When I realized we were going to be staying home for a long time, I kind of had this idea just for fun because the news cycle was exhausting and it was a little scary. There was a lot of uncertainty. It was late March of 2020, and at that point, I was still going to the grocery store and opening the fridge with my shirt over my sleeve because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't want to touch anything. Nobody wanted to leave the house, and movie theaters were all closed. So I thought, how can we bring people together in a way that makes us feel like a community, makes us feel connected, and kind of escape the horrible news cycle and everything that's going on? And I sent a tweet that was, hey, does everybody want to watch the Avengers together tonight? Because I think it would be fun to let's live tweet it and we'll all start it at the same time. And the response was awesome. At the time, I think I had maybe close to 40, 50,000 followers on Twitter. So I said, let's watch a movie together. Everybody who wants to come, 8 o'clock tonight, we're gonna watch the Avengers. And it ended up trending. So I said, well, we need to do this again. So the people at comicbook.com saw that I did that, and I just did it for fun. I thought, maybe this can grow, maybe we can get a filmmaker in this, but I didn't know this would become kind of a product. So that became a worldwide trend when we did. That was the first time we got a worldwide trend, was with Doctor Strange when the director watched it with us, which was awesome. And since then, James Gunn has done both Guardians of the Galaxy movies with us. The Russo brothers did Avengers Endgame. The writers, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, joined us for Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. We did Ant-Man with David Dastmalchian. We've done over a dozen. We've had dozens of actors and directors join us for Quarantine Watch Party events. And my ego feels good that we create worldwide trends that say Quarantine Watch Party, that Twitter gives us a whole moment. But there is nothing like when people message you or send you a tweet that says, I've been really having a hard time in quarantine. I haven't known what to do with myself. Thank you for the Quarantine Watch Party event. I really look forward to them. That to me, just talking about it, it just makes me genuinely happy because I didn't know I could impact people like that. And yes, my social media accounts have grown and we've been able to make a product that we can partner with studios and things like that on comicbook.com. But it genuinely is just such a rewarding feeling to know that I'm reaching people and I'm making them happy, even if just for a couple hours. They can forget that the world outside their door is a little scary right now, and we are still connected, and we do still have the things we love and each other, and that's my favorite part of it. The Quarantine Watch Party came back very successfully tonight, guys. Thank you so much for participating with Iron Man. the movie that started the MCU. We've been doing this since March. It's wild to think we're even still doing that. I promise we're going to keep doing this beyond quarantine, but the quarantine watch party came back tonight, the first one of June. Woo, another amazing, the best one yet maybe, quarantine watch party in the books. This is the post-credit scene from Doctor Strange. I cannot possibly thank director Scott Derrickson enough for joining us. We all stayed home, we all had a good time, we stayed safe, and we watched Doctor Strange.
I think the scariest part of quarantine in 2020, when we're told no mass gatherings, you can't be in person, shelter at home, was that really put in perspective that we cannot work for a while. Every bit of our jobs, every single job I lost was dependent on crowds of 50 or more people. Me personally, I've been building up my career in entertainment for almost a decade. Have that taken away, and with not knowing when we could work in entertainment again, started pursuing other options, going back to school for another degree to get a backup career, because if this happens again, I'll be even older. I can't go through that much uncertainty of 6 months of not working again. I need a plan B. I need to know I can work from home to be able to provide for XYZ. And I'm not the only one. I mean, everybody has to pivot. You know the saying, find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life. Well, if that's something you love to do is taken away from you, and out of necessity you have to pivot to a job to make ends meet, but you don't love it, then that's going to wear on your mental health.
People and companies had to pivot to stay afloat. That's just how it was. And for individuals like me and you, there were things we could do, such as delivery driver jobs and warehouse jobs. And it's nice to have some sort of income, but with how passionate we are, it's just not the same. It took a big toll on a lot of people's mental health.
I was a child of the 60s, and my parents grew up during the Depression. And they always carried fears with them throughout their lives that they had acquired during the time of the Depression. I was a kid that had to duck and cover in the classroom because we were preparing for a nuclear attack. Cold War was big. You know, I was right in the middle of all the upheaval and turmoil in the 60s and saw that happen, and that's affected me throughout my life. COVID-19 is going to affect the young filmmaker the rest of their lives, and you'll be carrying scars from this forever. You know, it's your family, close friends need to understand that your way of life has been taken away from you, and you've been really put in, your dream has been burst right in front of you. And there's a lot of post-traumatic stress syndrome that goes along with that. And people just have to understand to, you know, let you grow past it, let you deal with what you learn from it, and treat you well and gingerly in the process. Because COVID-19 is this generation's Great Depression. It's this generation's Vietnam War and all of that, all kind of mashed up into one. Because you've got the fear of death, you've got finances are horrible, you know, people are being evicted. I mean, it's the toughest of times, and it's something that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life. And if I had to tell my mom and dad anything, it would be, hey, give me a break. You know, you remember the 60s, or do you remember your grandmother and grandfather, the ones that had to live through the Depression? You know, remember what it was like for them? I'm going to be carrying these scars for the rest of my life. You know, help me out, help me through this.
I think we have a pretty good path forward. Everything still hinges on the unknown. So what if? And then we have to revert. But assuming we stay on the path we're on, we're gradually making those inroads as to, you know, reducing some of the restrictions. What I think will be around for a while is masks and social distance. We're on the downhill side of this for sure. I don't have any doubt about that. And I do think we rebound better than most for those of us that can survive the pain.
You know, speaking of preparedness, I think there's two levels you have to be prepared for. While many of us are part of a crew or a team or even an employee of a company, we still have to watch out for ourselves. So I think number one is people need to be prepared to take care of themselves. And what does that mean specifically? I think people that didn't have an emergency fund before will now realize the value of having 6 to 8 months of living expenses saved in the bank that they don't touch. I think people are realizing now why when we talk about being debt-free and not buying the not newer or nicer car and maybe renting an apartment a little longer before you buy a house to maintain that status of debt-free. Thank goodness that I, at least personally, had an emergency fund, because I know a lot of people that didn't, and they were in a tough spot. So I think, to be prepared in the future as an individual, it's about financial responsibility and assuming that the worst could happen, hoping it never does, but being prepared if it does. To be prepared as companies, a lot of the same principles will apply. As an organization, we had an emergency fund. We knew that at some point production could slow down. We never predicted this would happen, but I was prepared to cover multiple rounds of payroll without any income coming in. And my worst fears came true. No income came in. I think what a lot of people forget is, yeah, our work did slow down and stop, but we'd been working for months before this. But all the people that owed us money for previous work stopped sending checks because they were terrified. They didn't know what was going to happen. So when we extend terms to our clients, net 30, net 60, in some cases net 120 for some of our biggest clients, those checks didn't show up. So our money literally stopped on a dime. New money stopped coming in, money that was owed to us stopped coming in, put us in a tough spot. Most companies that work in production, audio, lighting, staging, they typically are wrapped with massive debt. I mean, at least in our case, on the television side, cameras and lenses and cables cost hundreds and thousands of dollars, millions of dollars typically. Most of us have debt to deal with. And debt is not necessarily a bad thing, but being able to manage that debt in a season like this, that's what's become very tricky. And this is where all of a sudden it makes a difference. If you know your banker's name and they know your name, to where you can reach out and say, the situation, I'm not saying I'm not going to pay my bills, but what are our options for deferring some of those payments? All of a sudden a relationship with a hometown banker makes a lot more sense than somebody you've never met. They might give you, 1 more percentage point off your interest rate, but if you don't have anybody you can call when disaster strikes, that's not a situation I want to be in.
Something I've seen and a trend is that, a lot of these young people get out of school, particularly with the touring industry, and, they go on a 6-month tour, 3-month tour, 4-month run, something like that, and suddenly they have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. And they do that a handful of times a year. A lot of us, a lot of those people, we just kind of spend what we make. So I don't know exactly how this would be implemented. It's hard. You can't force people to do things with their money. But maybe if the touring companies could help out some of these people, that are touring, and offer maybe some sort of a 401k or a 401k type program or retirement type plan or emergency type fund. I mean, a lot of these people are making $2,000 a week, for 3 months or whatever. I mean, what is that? $8, $16, $32,000 or something? $32,000 in 3 months. What's 5% of that? They won't see it. You're not even going to think about it. You just have to do it. So, I mean, if some of these larger touring companies are matching, the 2 or 3% that they pull out of their paycheck as an incentive to build up some sort of an emergency fund that could maybe be rolled into a retirement or something like that. It was just a general idea that I had. But how do you implement something like that? We don't know.
I think a little bit of how to prepare will need to fall on us. I save a lot. I take a huge chunk out of whatever paycheck I get that week and save and then try to live off my per diem, which has helped a lot. I was saving to pave my driveway, but now I'm living off of it for a while. So saving is a big thing, but we also need help from the companies, the government, whatever else it is that we have. Live Nation had their Crew Nation Fund, which was nice. It was, I think, like $1,000 if you applied, but still, that only goes so far. So if this happens again, I think companies like Live Nation and AEG and PRG and all these guys just need to come together and figure out how can we protect our employees if this happens. How can we prevent from just furloughing and laying off and people just stop working? And then I think we need our governments to get a plan in place. We're the first to get canceled and the last to come back. When you want to do your relief concerts, we're the first to show up and help. So it's time to help us.
Overall, everything has changed. And we've learned a lot from the pandemic and adapted several protocols and mindsets that I feel like should stick around.
Yeah, like if you're sick, stay home. Nobody wants to work around somebody that could get them sick and cause them to miss out on work, especially after everything we've been through the past 2 years. There's also a lot of virtual events and streaming options that are catering to an online audience that really wasn't thought about before. Film sets and work sites feel a lot different now. There's just a cleanliness factor and sanitation protocols that weren't there before.
I have married freelance friends that they're hurting. One of the nice things about us being able to continue doing work, the people that we serve wanted to get out and do their mission, we were able to employ a lot of our friends. I mean, they were the first calls, right? Like, I have a lifelong freelance friend who had no work, nothing. I have another one whose artist would pay him through June, right? Like, so it was like different. And we got to give back to the people who normally would be my sales guys on the road, right? These are the guys who speak well about us, who are out there doing the work, who interact with my customers sometimes more than I do. And we were able to give back to them and help keep them employed. But I worry about them going forward. There's not enough work left for the market that we all are going after at one time. I worry about that from a cost standpoint. What that's going to do to our market. Are there going to be people that try to buy into the market that, you know, are we going to be so overrun that we just won't have enough work for everybody that wants to work? I also worry about the fact that I think we're going to lose a lot of talented people that just aren't interested in coming back to it. They found a new passion, they found a way to be home with their families more, and I think we're going to lose a lot of really talented people.
You're 65, 66, working in this industry is great. You know what I mean? Let's just say you work on a show like, say, The Talk. You know, you go in, I don't know what they're called, 6 in the morning, and you're out at 2 p.m. It is a great job for someone that's like 60, 65, right? All of a sudden it goes away for 7 months because they're just getting back now. It's like, do you really want to get back into it after having 7 months off? Or is this kind of like a gateway towards your retirement? It's a very hard decision to make. And dealing with all the, like we've touched on a million times, all the protocols that are in place, it's like their decision's made for them. I think their decision is made for them with these protocols that are put in place.
I think that a lot of people in the entertainment industry are workaholics. We love our job and that's why we're in it, but it is so time consuming and it is very, it's hard and it's exhausting. And when you're working, 18 hours for 5-6 days straight, one day off just to recover, and then you're back at it, you don't have this like healthy like resetting and evaluation of your life. And I think that the pandemic really highlighted that. I think the time away from work is helping everyone kind of reevaluate their lives and what's important to them. And now that things are starting to pick back up, we're having to evaluate again of like, do I want to go back to the way things were, or do I want to incorporate these things that I've realized are really important to me into my life post-pandemic?
I tried to create a little bit, but it was hard for me to do that. And that I feel like changed a lot of things for me. Talking about mental health and depression and trying to be okay during this, I feel like I hit some of those things even before the pandemic hit. And then when the pandemic hit, I almost felt like a a communal part of like, now everybody's at home. Now everybody, okay, we're all depressed together. It doesn't feel good, but I at least felt less lonely. But the other side of that, everything stopped for everyone. And for creative people, and I feel like even for people that are not creative, everybody leans on people that are creative. People, when they're stressed out, they go to the movies. When they want to feel better, they listen to music. When they want to feel nice, they may put on, a costume or do something that makes them feel more alive. And I feel like everyone, no matter what their career is, everyone looks to creative people to feel okay again. And the fact that creative people couldn't even feel okay was really big. I think for everybody, we all felt it.
I started 2019 with a therapy retreat to a place called Onsite. And at that place, I really learned the importance of community, with human connection, with surrounding yourself with people that love you, that you can lean on when you need to. So when the pandemic hit and I really learned so much more about myself, I was ready to really utilize those tools in my friendships, my relationship. I couldn't. I mean, I could, but I had to do it from a distance. I couldn't be around my friends. I couldn't be around my family. And one of the things that you learn there is isolation is not a good thing. And that's something that I would turn to a lot when I was having a hard time or when I was going through some sad spells. And so to have the thing I love so much taken away, touring, playing shows, and to not be able to then fill my time with friends and going out and just like distracting myself was just a double whammy. So I had a hard time with that at first, and but I realized that I was also missing writing. The in-person sessions were always so amazing for me, and the connection that you have with your co-writers is really important, and being in the room is just very electric. So I kind of put off doing the Zoom writing the first couple of weeks because I thought, I've never done that. I think it's going to be awful. And then once I it just came to a head of like my creativity needing to come out, it was awesome. It was exactly what I needed. So that really getting into the Zoom writes and then getting through to the other side of working out the beginners living together thing with my boyfriend, I felt like I got into a little bit better of a groove. Once my creativity was able to come out again, it helped a lot.
Being able to call in sick to work isn't really a thing in our industry, and now it's becoming accepted. Like, oh, you don't feel good? Please stay home. That was never a thing before. If you didn't show up to work because you had a stomach ache or you had a fever, like, it was looked down upon, and that's not okay. So I'm hoping that that'll stick around, because I think it's really important for our physical health and mental health, and just all around happiness on set. I remember so many times we're working on an indie, everyone's getting little sleep, and no one's getting quite the amount of recovery time needed. And so one person gets a cold, then it spreads through the whole set, and next thing you know, you have actors sniffling and sneezing between takes, and that's not okay. So I really hope that some of these sanitation and other protocols stick around.
At some point, we've touched on safety protocols that some good, right? Like, we looked at ourselves as an industry and went, wow, we really don't have a protocol for that. Coming into work sick is a badge of honor, and that's gone. And so, yeah, you'll see some safety language on the back of tickets now when you go to events and things like that. I don't know that it's gonna necessarily, 5 years from now, are we going to be wearing masks and have mandatory vaccines and things like that at concerts? I don't think so. I think we're a self-healing kind of people. immediately that's going to be on the front of everyone's mind, and that's going to be hard to get past. For events, virtual is a thing. It's here to stay. We used to look at virtual as you're just peeking in on the concert. It was never meant for you. It was like watching a security camera at home. And what I think will come out of this is there will be a lot of personalization of the virtual experience. So if you are at a concert and selling that concert, they are performing and cutting that show for IMAG. You at home should be getting a different show, hosted by a different person who's speaking directly to you and making it personal. That's pretty cool, because that gives then the option for people that don't feel safe, or maybe that are too busy to make the drive or live in a remote area, to still be connected, because that's what people want. They want to be connected, whether it's worshiping or just singing a regular song and everybody joins in on the chorus together. Like, that connectivity is impossible to replicate.
I think anything that became more efficient and safer is here to stay. And that's kind of that. If we made money, it worked, less manpower, less rest, they're going to keep those levels of things. But I also think when we think we could be at normal, reasonably normal levels, still with masks being required. But if we can put 15 to 17,000 people in the arena and masks are the only thing we have to do, that's pretty good.
I like to think that there is a destination which is the same world we lived in before. But I think that this COVID stuff might be something that's here forever. I don't know how you get it down to zero. I don't know how that ever happens, but also not a scientist. I don't know how the science and the health issues of that work, but I just think this might be something that's here forever. And that sucks, but it has to be managed for anything to get back to what it was before. I think it's really important to put your phone down every once in a while and to turn the TV off every once in a while, because on Twitter, it looks like the world is really scary out there. And to some extent, there's a lot of bad things happening. But if you just put your phone down and you get to socialize a little bit and experience things and a routine and some semblance of normal, it goes a really long way. And I've tried to tell that to people. The people on Twitter who follow, I say, like, listen, if you're overwhelmed, it's okay. You're not alone in being overwhelmed. Just put your phone down, open the front door and get some fresh air. And maybe just go for a drive or go to the park or anything, because you need to. You need to take care of yourself. And this year it's very easy to be intimidated by the world. And I feel like I'm a person who doesn't get a lot of anxiety. For people who do battle that kind of stuff normally, I just can't imagine what they've gone through this year. And it's important to make sure you're being open about it and taking care of yourself.
I feel like what COVID did and what 2020 has done by far is it's holding up a mirror to what has already been. It's like we've already had issues in our healthcare systems. We've already had issues in education. We've already had issues when it comes to race, when it comes to all of these things, police brutality, all of those things. And now we all have to look at it, and we all have had to look at it together. So I feel like if something like this happened again, we definitely need leadership that knows what they're doing and information that we can really trust, and that we're not being lied to about what's going on with our health and with our world.
Live has never operated the way it has been planned out. Not once has the production manager put down a plan and it's operated flawlessly from load in to the truck closing doors. And I think that we will figure out a way for this to go forward. But people want to be together. They really do. People always ask, what event are you most proud of doing? And it's never the named thing that we do. It's not that A-level artist or something like that. It can be that 500 people in a ballroom doing a worship set and they're all singing together. And that's more powerful and that's more moving, and that's not going to stop. Nothing's going to stop that from happening.
The extreme jolt that we've all felt, this new lifestyle, it's gonna come to an end at some point. If we all just kind of stay connected as much as possible, it just works wonders. I mean, human connection is key to all this.
The events, the employment, the recovery, we're in it together, and we'll come out of it in a good way together.
So here we are in 2022. Some things have normalized. A lot of our work has come back fully. But for some aspects of our industry, things are just how they were in 2020. There's still a lot of uncertainty, and it's caused a lot of people that we know to change careers entirely or just have to find a new path.
We caught up with people we originally interviewed to see how they've been handling the last couple of years.
Since the onset of COVID, things have been in a constant state of change. And I think that something we as an industry should be very proud of is our willingness to be flexible. It's clear that we just want to work. We want to do the work we love to do. We want to do the sporting events, the concerts, the corporate events. We're very compliant as an industry. I feel like for the most part, everybody that works in the world that we work in, we're willing to do whatever we have to do. But I admit there's been some frustration. It's like, pick something. What are the standards? Do I have to do a temperature check every morning or not? Are you just going to trust me when I fill out a form? Or do you actually want to do a true COVID test on location every day? It seems like there's no consistency and it's changing constantly. And honestly, there's not really any end in sight. We don't know when these different restrictions and requirements are going to be lifted. I'm very proud of our industry and the fact that, again, we just want to do the work. We'll do whatever you ask of us, but some consistency would be nice. I think our industry went out of its way to take care of one another, to make sure that we were safe, whatever that meant. And frequently, month to month, what that meant would change. But we were willing to modify our daily procedures. I feel like that pivoting, everybody talked about pivoting. We were willing to pivot. Sometimes multiple pivots within a week, but okay, we're gonna do a giant award show with no crowd. No problem, we'll use cardboard cutouts and make it look cool on TV. Okay, a crowd's allowed to come in, but it's minimal. Okay, we'll move our cameras to make that minimal crowd still look like something that would be appropriate for that venue. The changes were constant, and we were willing to change along with that. And looking back, I'm very proud of our industry for our ability to make those changes, maintain a good attitude, and at the end of the day, still get the work done. When it comes to the long-term impacts that COVID has had on our industry, I think the number one word is awareness. I didn't think about the condition of my hands before I grabbed something from craft services. Regardless of the COVID status, I guarantee I'm going to be a lot more prone to use hand sanitizer these days. If I don't feel good when I wake up in the morning, 5 years ago, I probably would have pushed through. But now it occurs to me, I could contaminate the rest of the crew. And that's always been the case, whether it was COVID or the flu or anything else. But I think the long-term impact will be awareness and maybe a little more respect for our brothers and sisters on the show site. We're a lot more aware of the fact that our actions can have a detrimental impact on the rest of the crew. If I make somebody else sick because I don't wash my hands enough and they miss work, that's my fault. And that's always been the case, but I don't think people were quite as aware of that.
2020 was a ride, to say the least. Last time I was interviewed, I was working at a grocery store. After that, I left to actually become a maid to help people as well because I like cleaning. I find it therapeutic. At the end of that, I actually had a pretty severe knee injury, required surgery that took me out of work for a few months. In late 2021, I did finally book an actual tour. That was great. I love being back with my tour family. I love being back with the energy. I love just having my job and my life back. And unfortunately, my knee injury was still not recovered enough. So I had to jet off a little bit earlier than I wanted to, and it's been a little bit of a struggle since then. I've been finding freelance gigs here and there, just not as much as I would like. The job that I get to start in a couple of weeks that I'm really excited for. It's a stable job, which is priority number one these days, especially after the last few years. It's gonna be weird because I'm so used to the spontaneity, the flying by the seat of my pants, the, oh hey, by the way, I know you're supposed to be here this week, but actually tomorrow we need you to go across the country. I mean, I'm gonna miss touring. It's been my life for years, going on gigs, constantly traveling. I feel like that's who I was. That was my identity, being a roadie. That's who I am. That's how I got to introduce myself. And let's be real, that was my excuse for a lot of things. Like, ooh, sorry, my sleep schedule's messed up. I'm just a roadie. It's what I do. It was a big part of who I am. It's where I met my closest friends. It's where I found a home. That tour bus was where I felt the safest. It's where I had a family, where I knew that these people were all on my side, even after the worst days. After the best days, we'd go out, we'd celebrate, we'd vent, we'd do what a family does, and just, we love each other, and it's hard to think about leaving that behind because they are my family. So it's rough, but I am excited to see what stability is going to bring me for a change.
You know, from a business perspective, now that we've made it through what portion of COVID we've made it through, and I know we're not done yet, but we're far enough along to where I can look back and be retrospective. And the bottom line is it's had an impact on everybody. But I think the universal truth is those that are willing to hustle have been able to find their way through it. With 50 or 70 employees and a payroll every 2 weeks, you know, we were willing to pivot and do work that might not be normal work for us, but work that we were very thankful to have. You know, budgets might have been lower, you know, requirements might have been fewer, but we were willing to get out there and go take those opportunities to keep the lights turned on. So it was absolutely pivoting. It was absolutely opening our minds and thinking, what way can we take our skills and our tools and reapply them? And ultimately, you know, we've thrived. 2020, you know, we had a down month or two, but ultimately by the end of 2020, we hit the numbers we wanted to hit. And in 2021, it was even better. We weren't going to let this thing beat us.
When it comes to the industry's response to COVID, it's kind of hard to tell. At the beginning, it was super strict. Obviously, everything got canceled. Everyone's masking up, staying away, getting hand sanitizer everywhere when you could find it. It was all brand new. We're learning, we're waiting, and at that point, unfortunately, there's nothing more you can really do about it. As time's gone on, it's obviously gotten a little bit more relaxed. There's still mask mandates. My tour had a mask mandate. They want to keep tours going, so they're going to do whatever it takes to get the show on the road.
You know, I think long term, looking forward to what's going to stick around from all this, I think is our ability to react to these situations. COVID-19 may or may not be done. You know, we see that there are mandates being lifted from major events, even as we speak. But I think one thing we've learned over the last 2 years is we don't know. They're going to lift those mask requirements, and in 2 months, they'll be right back again. But now we know what it takes to do testing on site, to have a health and safety officer on site, to know what it means to show, you know, a vaccine card. We've been through that process now, and we're not going to have to reinvent that wheel. We've made the mistakes, learned through it, know what to do next time, and I think that's going to be incredibly helpful, because if there is another pandemic, being able to respond to it faster and more efficiently means fewer people are going to get sick. We will be able to keep doing the work we love to do more efficiently because we've been through this now, and I think that's a very helpful thing.
Back in 2020 when we started this project, it was really just meant to be a short PSA about what people in our industries were going through.
I mean, this has been the most challenging moment of our lives. Everything we've learned from the pandemic is going to inform the decisions we make from here on out, whether it's related to work, personal decisions, healthcare, travel. Like, the world is different for everybody.
You know as well as I do that dealing with adversity on film sets and show sites is what we have to do. But we always push through and get it done. We're a very resilient industry. And I have no doubt that we're going to bounce back from this stronger than ever.